Here we go again then, me, Reedy, furry fella Ted, another episode of Beat the First Man for you. On this week's show coming up, Ted hands out another Little Knob of the Week award. We have zooming in with Steve Hale, who's the goalkeeper coach for Tottenham Hotspur Women. Don't miss that as he taught us football during COVID. And also Paolo Di Canio, not to be missed. We've got another exclusive of how old will that man be this week? It's another good one. And we have a brand new feature for you, so stick around. So what are we waiting for? Set the little footballs on fire. Go on, play the tune. So here we are again then. What are you still doing here? You're never here at the start. Go on, disappear. Bloody bear. Episode 29 of the podcast, a podcast that finds room for Lionel Messi and Ted all in the same show. Thanks again to all of you who've continued watching. It means the world. Thank you to your new subscribers who've joined us over the last few weeks. Keep on hitting that subscribe button below if you like what you see. Don't forget the thumbs up. Don't forget the little bell for the notifications so you don't miss me again. So everybody on board the BTFM bus? Let's hit the road. Let's get this going. So Stoke Gabriel, still no definitive on their front. It's a right old mess as all the leagues are now voting on having separate cup competitions, etc. Yeah, the league season is over. There's no two ways about it. That's done and dusted. It's just whether they create any sort of spin-off competition, but it's not looking like anything's going to happen. So I think it's a matter of time before we take the shirt off. It will hang up on there. It might go next to the Leeds one in pride of place, or it may get its own space. But for now, we wait and see. But the shirt remains in place. Anyway, excuse me. Let's get the nonsense underway, and we will bring you another footballer from the 80s. This week we head to West Yorkshire, and a man who made 207 appearances for the mighty Leeds United before making the switch to Port Vale, where he made another 347 appearances. But let's be honest, we're not interested in that. What we want to know is, Neil Aspin, how old were you when this photo was taken? So, be sure to hang around. The answer will be at the end of the show when we'll find out how old Neil Aspin was when that photo was taken. Anyway, time for the star of the show. So he keeps telling me anyway. Hiya, Ted. Hang on, it's not just me. Everybody tells you I am the star. Ted, you get the odd comment saying that you're the star, but let's be honest, it's nothing OTT, is it? It's nothing, there's not a star on your dressing room door or anything. I don't see them commenting about you. I don't see people with mini Reedies in their house. Well, of course you don't. Why would they? Well, every household has had a version of me at some stage in their lives. No, Ted. Every household has had a teddy bear at some stage in their house. They've not had the actual Ted like we've got on this show. So you say tomato, I say tomato. What does that even mean? Well, it's just Todd, Ted. Todd? What are you called? I'm not Todd, I'm Ted. Okay, enough. So, little knob of the week then. Have we chosen someone for this week? Yeah, it's easy. I've picked someone. Hang on, I've changed my mind. Wait, I've changed my mind again. And I've changed my mind again. I see what you did there, Ted. That was very good, very funny. So, so who's won it then? Who's won this week's award? Step forward, Lee Mason. Yeah, Lee Mason. So, the West Brom v Brighton game, as we all saw, Lewis Dunk took the quick free kick. Lee Mason gave the goal, disallowed it, gave it again, disallowed it again. To be honest, by the end of it, I'm not even sure whether it was a goal or whether it wasn't a goal. So, I mean, let's be honest, if you're going to the cinema, you don't want to be behind Lee in the queue choosing popcorn or sweets, so you'll be there all day. I'll have the popcorn. No, I'll have the fruit pasta. No, can I have some ice? Honestly, Lee, from me and Ted, for that performance last week, it has to be said, you win the Little Knob of the Week award. Well done. Apparently Lee Mason used to be decisive, but now he's not quite so sure. High five to that one, Ted. That was good. That was good. That was like a proper dad joke, that one, from a teddy bear. Anyway, are we going to see you later, Ted, or not? Or is it just a one-off this week? I don't know. If I can be asked, I might see you later. Oh, well, thanks for joining us, hey? How spoiled we are. Anyway, a little bit different now. We're going to try and mix it up, keep it interesting. Lineal European Cup update. So for those of you who don't know the show, haven't seen it before, Lineal European Cup started back in August. It's quite simple. It's like boxing. Winner stays on. If you draw, you retain the trophy. Blah, blah, blah. You'll soon catch up. It's not difficult. Last Friday, we had a change of winners. Werder Bremen defeated Eintracht Frankfurt 2-1 to take the trophy. They will now defend the trophy against recent holders, FC Cologne. Can Cologne sniff success again? Come on. That's 2 Cologne jokes in the space of 2 or 3 weeks. Come on. I can milk this one until the end of the season. Anyway, we'll be back later with a Lineal UEFA Cup update. Anyway, time for the new feature klaxon. I couldn't afford a klaxon. Told you, if you expected laser shows and light shows, you're off your heads. So, it's been a while, but today, another new high budget feature for you. Light up the pyro. Pyro? Pyro. We couldn't afford any pyro. I couldn't even afford a Swan Vesta to light. So, the new feature, well, it's quite simply called, and you'll love this, Your Name's Shit, or Is It Great? Ah! Like it? Good, isn't it? So, here's how it works. So, in this feature, we scour the footballing world and we bring you a football team with a shit or great name, depending on your viewpoint. Simple as that. So, first off, we head to Argentina, and a club in the second division of the National League, founded in 1947. They were originally going to be called Deportivo Manuel Belgrano, but they had a change of heart, and eventually they plumped for the name the team go by now. To my watching public, I present to you our first team of the new feature, Your Name's Shit, or Is It Great? Ah! Deportivo Moron. Yes, Moron. A little known fact, Moron is actually a city in the Buenos Aires region. No, don't worry, I'm not going to go Moldavia on you again last week. And to the subscriber who asked about Moldavia, very disappointed to see you've not commented on my information last week. But anyway, back to the morons. The crunch of it is, the manager's a moron, the players are morons, the fans are morons. They're just an utter bunch of morons. Deportivo Moron. Love it. So tune in next week. We'll have another instalment of Your Name's Shit, or Is It Great? Ah, brilliant. Maybe we can get a little collection of people to do that as the theme tune. So don't forget, go in the comments below. Let me know what category you fall under. Was it shit? Was it great? Anyway, time for me to have a little bit of a breather. And this week, zooming in on this week's show, we have a man earning his living in the game. We love a proper bona fide football person. It's no less than the goalkeeper coach of Women's Super League team Tottenham Hotspur, Mr. Steve Hale. So sit back, enjoy his insight into the game, some great stuff on football during COVID times, and some great revelations about Paolo Di Canio from his time at Swindon Town. Sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you after zooming in.
So, welcome to another Zooming In. This week, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the goalkeeper coach for Women's Super League side. Yes, a bona fide person that works in football, Mr. Steve Hale. Welcome on board, Steve.
Good evening, Mr. Reid. How are you?
Yeah, very well, my friend. Not too bad at all. So, Steve, you've become the goalkeeper coach at Tottenham in the Women's Super League. How is life treating you at Tottenham? I know you're only a couple of weeks in.
Yeah, as I say, it is literally my second week. So started last week. We had the game Sunday, and as I say, back in training today. Obviously, I'm new in the club, so I've got to get used to the environment and the people I'm working with. And obviously, I've transferred across from the men's game to the women's game. So again, I'm out of the comfort zone, if you like. It's a brand new environment to get used to. So as I say, I'm just sort of getting my feet under the table, really.
Yeah, and so go rewinding then, Steve. So what made you get into goalkeeper coaching in the first place? Going back to, obviously, I mean, you were as a player as a goalkeeper back in the day. So was it the natural choice to go into goalie coaching, or did you look at management, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was an average non-league goalkeeper. I didn't profess to be anything particularly special. Enjoyed my non-league football, but I got to sort of about 32, 33. I was playing, I think, at Hungerford Town at the time. Just got one or two little niggly little injuries, and just sort of thought, you know what? I think I've got more chance doing something coaching wise than I have as a player as such. So I'd started on the process of going through my coaching badges, outfield goalkeeping badges. I already had my own private goalkeeping school. I just set that up at the time. And I just literally sort of built it from there. But initially I was doing some outfield coaching with Andy Line at Wantage, and then I did some work with Gary Acklin at Thatcham Town. But I think at the similar sort of time, I'd already started working part-time in the academy at Swindon alongside my goalkeeping school. And so gradually just the goalkeeping side of it sort of grew more than the outfield. I always had more interest in the goalkeeping side than the outfield anyway. And so it just literally grew and grew from there, to the point where at the time I was doing about 3 or 4 different jobs. I think I was working as a teaching assistant in a primary school in the morning. I was working at Cirencester Town Football Club in the afternoon, doing some administration work. I was also the goalkeeping coach at Cirencester Town. I was part-time academy goalkeeping coach at Swindon. I had my own goalkeeping school. So I was doing a host of different things. The opportunity came up with the EPPP for me to go into a full-time role in the academy at Swindon, which actually meant taking a pay cut from all my different revenue streams to just go into the Swindon job and my goalkeeping school. It actually meant me taking a pay cut, but it was the step on the ladder, if you like, just to get into the full-time game, which was what my target was. And literally over the years, my pathways sort of grown and grown, really. You know, I was full-time academy goalkeeping coach at Swindon for a few years, and then the opportunity came up to step up to the main job to do literally everything at the club, from first team all the way down to under nines. A big part of that was probably played by Wes Fotheringham. At the time, he was the first team goalkeeper. Fraser Digby was a club legend, had been doing the goalkeeping coaching, but he was stepping down. And I think, although Mark Cooper was the manager, I think Wes was a big player at the club at the time, and I think he was asked his opinion. And in the previous season, I'd covered a couple of first team sessions, and he liked the way I worked with him. And he actually said to the club, well, I want Steve to step up and do the job. And that was, it just went from there, really. And, you know, as you've seen, my career sort of, you know, moved across a few clubs over the last 6 or 7 years, really. And I've had lots of experiences through those moves as well. So obviously we were in League One at the time at Swindon. Mark Cooper got the sack from Swindon 80, about 2 years later. He approached me to go with him to Forest Green, which was a tough decision for me to make at the time, because you know, I've been at Swindon for a number of years. I'm a Swindon born and bred person, and it was tough because we were League One at the time, and at the time Forest Green were in the conference. So it was quite a big decision, but I actually sort of felt, on one hand, it was not a bad time to do it, because I'd been at Swindon, I think, 9 years, and I just thought, well, this is all I know. You know, what's it like at other clubs? What's the environments like at other clubs? So first and foremost, I felt it was the right time to have a change, to challenge myself. And secondly, I make no bones about it, I'm not going to dress it up. The financial package was far better than what I was getting. And people can say it's not about money. Well, I'll be honest, it is at times.
Yeah.
Because we've all got bills to pay at the end of the day. And it wasn't just, you know, a few quid here and there. It was quite a substantial difference. So I just thought the two things combined, a fresh challenge and a bigger pay increase, you know, why not go for it? And so, you know, say from there, I went to Forest Green and had a few clubs after that as well.
So obviously you were at Swindon as an academy coach, and you were there at a time when there was a certain Italian man in charge of Swindon Town. So the outside concept of Paolo Di Canio, for those who don't know who I'm talking about, obviously he's a very passionate man on the touchline, loves his team, gets right wrapped up in the team. What's it like to be around him day to day?
Two sides to Paolo, Rihanna, to be honest with you. So I was in the academy at the time, but I got quite a good insight into it. I had quite a good relationship with his goalkeeping coach, who was also, his whole backroom staff was Italian, but I got on quite well with the first team goalkeeping coach, so I got a bit of an insight there. I suppose the positives of Paolo was his passion, like everybody said. He had real enthusiasm for the game, real enthusiasm for coaching. He was a very good coach, a very detailed coach. I would never knock his work ethic was fantastic. Like, nobody could work harder than Paolo, I would say that. and he had a great knowledge of the game. And at the end of the day, he got results. You know, you can look at the budget he had, which was very good for the level at the time, which obviously helps. You can go and get the better players, but you know, that allied to his coaching abilities, you know, was a positive. And I think the fans loved him. From the outside looking in, when you saw his passion on the touchline, he used to smash the dugouts. It was incredible that they didn't break. But you know, the fans will always love, you know, someone showing passion, and so they loved Paolo because of his passion. So that was all like what I would call the positive sides to Paolo, but there were many negative sides, in my opinion, as well. Obviously, I was working in the youth system at the time, and Paul Bowden was the youth team manager, who again is a club legend. And Paolo had no interest whatsoever in the youth setup at Swindon. And Swindon have always had a good youth setup, but Paolo had absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. He made it abundantly clear. He actually made life very difficult for Paul, which was very unfair, because when Paolo first came in, Paul was actually asked to have a little bit of involvement with the first team in terms of just sort of helping them come into the club, you know, a bit of knowledge about some players, because, you know, Paolo didn't have that knowledge of the players. But for some reason, quite quickly, Paul was almost ostracised by them. And it was sad to see, because, as I say, I've got so much respect for Paul Bowden, great servant of the club, great coach for the youth system. But he was treated disgracefully by Paolo, to be honest with you, and which was sad to see. And as I say, he had no interest in the youth setup. He just came across as a very arrogant person, a bit of a control freak. There'd be times, you know, myself and the scholars would be outside the training ground, sort of cleaning boots and things like that, and he would literally walk through us. And even me as a member of staff in the academy would literally just walk past you and blank you, wouldn't say good morning, just wouldn't even look at you. As simple as that. It was very arrogant, in my opinion. And again, even to the point, we had a charity game at Fairford Town once, staff against Fairford Legends, I think it was, and it was all about Paolo. You know, he played in the game, obviously a fantastic talent, even at his age. The things that he could do with the ball, you could see, just class act. But it was literally, you know, get the ball to me, give the ball to me. And there was even a stage in the game in the second half where he actually had an injury. And I think it was ironic, because Paul was playing but also managing the staff team, and he sort of said to Paolo, you know, you need to come off, and he was going to send the sub on. Paolo was having none of it. He didn't want to come off. He just, because it was, you know, people had come to watch, and he just wanted to stay out on the pitch. Look at me, look at me. And I could reel off probably 3 or 4 members of staff, and I'm talking office staff, coaching staff, and office staff, that he treated disgracefully. Have a couple of the ladies there that worked in the offices in tears over things he said and things he did, and it was very sad, because again, you know, I used to obviously watch Paolo play and Match of the Day and everything, and you have a perception about someone, but when you see them close up, and as I say, I saw the whole, you know, thing go on close up, and the fans would only see him on the touchline on a Saturday, getting enthusiastic and winning games of football. So obviously their perception is great about Paolo, but as I say, I saw both sides to him. You know, there's a lot of positives to him, but there was also a lot of negatives to him, unfortunately.
I think, and that's the thing as a fan, and you know, I speak only for myself here. As a fan, you literally only see that outside perception of what it is, and there's always another story in the back room. And I know, yeah, there's no bones about my team, my club. You know, there's so many stories come out of my club from Leeds over the years, and you know there's stuff going on. But of course, as a fan, as long as you're winning games, you don't really care, and that's the sad thing about it. But like you said, there's human beings behind it, whose lives are being affected potentially in other ways, and it's, you know, it's difficult to separate yourself from that fan mode to actually there's other things going on. But,
yeah, 100%. Like I say, I get that the fans only see the positives and everything like that, but as I say, when you've worked in that environment, and I say I saw a lot of positives in the job he did, but I also saw a lot of negatives, which, like I say, had an impact on, I would say, probably at least 4 or 5 good members of staff at that football club.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit, Steve, obviously you was at Exeter last season in the playoffs. Now, obviously it was after we'd had the lockdown and the game came back, and the lower leagues, they decided they were going to carry on with the playoffs. And you were at Exeter at the time, who were in the playoffs. So obviously sitting at home watching the games during COVID, yes, it's weird, but you've got the crowd noise in the background. And honestly, if you're just watching the game, you kind of just get wrapped up in it a little bit anyway, if you've got an interest in that game. What is it actually like being at a game with no fans, with no background noise? Is it as weird as we think it might be?
It was tough and frustrating time, to be honest, because going into March, we'd had a little bit of a poor run of form, but we were still very much in the mix. And I think if we didn't have the lockdown, we still saw it very much so that we wanted to go for the automatics, never mind the playoffs. Yeah. But because of the points per game system at the time, I think we got bumped down a position, and we, as I say, we ended up in the playoffs. But we still felt if the season had continued, we could have got the automatics. So after lockdown, the 4 teams in the playoff semi-finals came back in. And the Football League actually paid for the COVID testing for the 4 teams in the playoff semi-finals. So first and foremost, when we went back in, you had to contend with COVID testing, which anyone who's had the COVID test, it's not nice. Yeah. Up the nose, back of the throat and everything like that. And we had it twice a week to obviously make sure we were okay and everything like that. The first part of when we returned to training was really difficult because you didn't just come back in and the whole squad were back in together. The very first part was almost like individual training in terms of the outfield players. I think they could have 6 players at a time, but not even competitive, i.e. tackling. It was like non-contact. So it was generally just sort of fitness exercise and like basic passing drills. There was no competitive edge to it. And myself, I had the goalkeepers, and I literally had to do individual sessions. So at the time we had 3 goalkeepers, Lewis Ward, Johnny Maxton and Jared Thompson. So it was hard for me because I had to literally do, like say I was doing an hour, I'd have to do an hour with one goalkeeper, then an hour with another goalkeeper, then an hour with another goalkeeper. So you can imagine my legs were hanging off. But we also had to be very careful because say we'd worked as a group of goalkeepers and say one of us had contracted COVID, all of a sudden, bang, that's your whole goalkeeping group wiped out because you'd all have to obviously self-isolate. Yeah. So, yeah, that I think that happened for about the first 3 or 4 days back in. Then the groups were allowed to just get a little bit bigger. And then eventually it could go to full contact. So, and I think we only had, I think it was only probably a couple of weeks to prepare for the semi-final. And even the dates of that were dictated by the television companies because they wanted them on a certain date. It was basically insisted that we had to play on this certain date. So we actually, I'm sure it was only about 2 weeks preparation for the semi-final. When you've been off for God knows how long we've been off, as much as the players have been doing their fitness work at home, it's never the same as actual competitive team training. We didn't have any opportunities to play any friendlies going into that playoff semi-final. So it was really tough. And as I say, dictated to by the TV companies. So we had Colchester away in the first leg and then Colchester at home in the second leg. So obviously traveling up there, the players went on the coach, again, trying to social distance as best you could. As staff, we had to drive ourselves up to Colchester. We didn't go on the bus or anything like that. I don't think we went to a team hotel. We certainly didn't stay overnight. I think we might have gone for a little pre-match meal, but again, I had to be very careful with that. Went to the game. You don't change in normal changing rooms. So we actually changed in the concourse at the community home stadium. Which wasn't actually too bad, to be fair, because it actually gave you a lot of space, which was actually quite good. But, chairs were set out and you just sort of tried to dress it up like a dressing room, if you like. But we actually changed in the concourse at Colchester Stadium. And then you go out there and you think, you want to think about that adrenaline. This is a playoff semi-final first leg. Your adrenaline should be really going. But it is quite difficult. You walk out and obviously there's nobody in the stadium. So there's just no atmosphere. There's no fans greeting you. You've got the cardboard cutouts in the corner, which is, I understand why they do it, but it sort of looks quite amusing. So we played the first leg and I think we drew that, we drew that. And then I think a couple of days later, we went back to our place. And again, similar sort of setup. We both ourselves and Colchester changed in the concourse in one of the stands at Exeter, and you come out of different entrances. So whereas obviously normally you'd come down the tunnel, both teams together and everything like that. No, like we'd be one end of the ground coming out, and Colchester were coming out at the other end of the ground. So similar sort of setup. played the game, and again, it's just so quiet, and you feed. Even I know we're coaching staff, I'm not playing, but you still feed off the buzz of the crowd. You get that excitement, you get that adrenaline, and the whole rush of it, feeding off the crowd. You know, chances, going close, goals scored, tackles, and just the whole thing that you have with football. So it was quite eerie and quite awkward, really. But I think that the key thing was at the end of the game. So we won the game, and again, I'm quite fortunate in that was my third playoff final. I'd been to the National League playoff final with Forest Green, the League One playoff final with Swindon, and it's like once you win that playoff semi-final, it's just an unbelievable feeling knowing that you're going to Wembley first and foremost. And so when the final whistle against Colchester, probably for about 20 seconds only, like you're yes, we're in the final. And like normally you'd be running on the pitch, you'd be jumping up and down with the players, the fans would be on the pitch. It would just be an unbelievable feeling. Yeah. But it was like literally 20 seconds, you run on the pitch, hug a couple of players, and then it's, oh, right, well, that's that. and it's literally, it's almost like playing a reserve team game. It's just the adrenaline. There's no adrenaline. It's like, there's no excitement. I think the funniest thing was there's a house that overlooks the stadium at Exeter. And I don't know if it's next to fans, but a couple of fans were they overlooks St James Park, and there was a couple of like fans in there, like with their banners out and chanting, and you could literally hear everything they said. So I think Ryan Bowman had done well, scored. I think they were chanting his name and that while they were doing the TV interviews after the game, but like you could literally hear every word they were saying. But it's just a bit of an anti-climax. Do you know what I mean? You've just reached a final, and it's like, well, all right, well, that's it done. And then obviously the final at Wembley, similar. So again, when I went to the League One with Swindon, I think there was 45,000 there. Forest Green one, I think there was about 20,000 there. So again, you get the buzz. But as I say, going to the last season's League Two playoff final against Northampton, it's always a fantastic stadium to go to, of course. But again, you walk out and there's just nobody there apart from camera crew and reporters and things like that. It's just nowhere near the same. It's nowhere near the same.
It's quite interesting. I think as a fan, I think we've been taken for granted an awful lot over the years. And I don't get me wrong, I don't think much will change afterwards. I think we'll still be taken for granted. But I do think now the authorities will start to realise that we are a very, very big part of the game. And without us, the game actually, it's not the same thing. It's just nothing like it.
No, it's not the same thing. And I think, I'm talking from a coaching staff point of view, but you talk to the players and you can understand that a lot of them, again, feed off the buzz of the crowd. It's that adrenaline that gets them going. It's that excitement, and particularly when you score a goal. Do you know what I mean? The first thing you want to do is you run to your fans and you celebrate in front of your fans, and that whole feeling. And when you haven't got that, it's like it takes the edge off any celebration. It just takes the edge off the celebration. I'm not going to say it seems pointless, but it really reduces that joy that you get from scoring a goal and winning a game, really.
Yeah, and you can see it as well, can't you? In the games that really, really matter, you can see there's still that edge and they still really want it. But the games like the mid-table games now, you can just see the players, some of them are literally, they just want the season done and dusted now and move on to next year.
It looks almost as if they're going through the motions, and I'm sure they're not. I don't think any professional footballer just goes out there to just go through this sort of thing. But yeah, it takes the edge off it, and as I say, it's just not the same without the fans. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Right, Steve. So we've got a couple of either ors for you to choose from. So England at the Euros, you're in charge. Are you picking Pickford or Pope?
If I'm the manager, personally, I know people, Southgate would probably go for Pickford because of the distribution side of his game.
Yeah.
Personally, perhaps I'm a little bit old school about this, but I still feel the biggest priority for a goalkeeper is keeping the ball at the back of the net. So although Pickford has done that well in the past, I do like Pickford, and I have liked Pickford. I don't feel this season he's been the same keeper as he has been in the past. So on form, I would go with Pope. And as I say, for me, the biggest priority still remains keeping the ball at the back of the net. So I would go with Pope.
Yeah, no, okay. So Messi or Ronaldo?
Oh, I got to be honest. Fantastic, both of them, obviously. I would go with Ronaldo personally. I just think the guy is an absolute freak. He's just an extreme athlete. Obviously, Messi's goal scoring record is fantastic, but I think Ronaldo's is up there as well. And you just look at him. He's an absolute specimen of a man. And he just, when you see some of the footage of him in terms of like jumping to head a ball at the back post and things like that, you see how high he gets off the floor. He's just an incredible athlete. And I can't remember what age he is now. He's obviously no spring chicken, but he could probably carry on playing for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Do you know what I mean? He's that much of a specimen. So yeah, he scores unbelievable goals. I would just edge with Ronaldo. And again, you could toss a coin, let's be honest about it. It's just a personal choice, and I'd go with Ronaldo. Yeah.
He can jump higher than me and you at that age, Steve. Anyway, I know that much.
You're at the height I can jump.
So VAR or no VAR?
No VAR.
No, nobody wants it.
I understand they wanted technology in to try and get rid of some of the decisions that could go wrong. I get that, but for me, it's just completely not worked. Again, because you find people can't even celebrate goals. The players can't, the fans can't. They've got to wait for it all to go on. And I still think that there's still an element of thought between a referee's decision. It's still not factual, I don't think. I still think there's an element of their personal choice on situations. So the fact, again, it's sort of spoiling the game as a spectacle, and we're still having debates, even with the technology. We're still having debates. I think you've just got to go back to the old way and just accept that there's going to be times when referees make mistakes, and you just got to get on with it. As simple as that. It's human error, but it is what it is, sort of thing. But I still think I'd rather still take that than what we're getting with VAR at the moment.
Have you found that quite refreshing? I know you've only been involved for one game, which was you didn't pick a bad game as your first game, Steve. A 3-2 thriller, to be fair, albeit in the wrong way round.
Yeah, exactly. You came out the wrong end on that.
But was it refreshing to be involved in a game where actually, when the ball went in, it was in. That was it. It was a goal. There was nothing. There was no controversy at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, as I say, back to those raw emotions. Someone scores a goal, you want to celebrate. I know we didn't have any fans there, but as I say, from a player's perspective, you score a goal, you want to celebrate. From a fan's perspective, that ball hits the back of the net, you want to celebrate. You don't want to sit there, let's look at the big screen on TV, and is it, isn't it? And again, VAR is not for me.
Yeah, we've not found anybody yet in all the episodes I've done of this who said keep it. So that says it all.
That's its own story, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, exactly. So time for your five-a-side team, Steve. The only rules, you have to have seen them live. One goalie, one defender, two midfielders, one striker. So we'll start with, go on.
Well, I think you said to me you wanted a Premiership sort of team. But to be honest with you, because of my career being involved in the game, I wouldn't say I've seen masses of live games, certainly at Premiership level. So obviously a lot of my experience has been in the Football League, either in games I've coached in or obviously, games I've seen and been to because you're scouting and things like that. So my five-a-side team isn't going to be made up of Premiership players. So I haven't seen a huge amount live.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. The Premier League thing was the guest fee knowledge, Steve. You didn't read the email properly, you naughty boy.
So anyway, I am going again. It's quite a biased one, a very Swindon orientated So I am going for Wes Fodderman in goal, not just because I coached him, just the fact that I think he's an excellent goalkeeper, a good pro, and he's good with his feet. So in terms of five-a-side, quite easily trust my goalkeeper going back to him because I know he's good with his feet. So I'm going for Wes in goal.
And of course, didn't do badly from after you left. After you worked with him at Swindon, he moved on to Rangers as well. He didn't do badly for himself, did he? To be fair.
Yeah, he did well, mate. And he went to Rangers at a time when obviously they were building themselves back up after all their financial problems, and he got worked up through the leagues again with them and had a good time there and did a good job. Obviously, eventually Alan McGregor came in, who's a Rangers legend, and he performed fantastically. So it was probably the right time for Wes to move on, and obviously he's got himself a move to a Premiership club, which is a good move for him. So yeah, Wes is my man in goal in the five-a-side team. One defender is going to be Nathan Thompson, again, Swindon lad. And the reason I've gone for Nathan is a few reasons, really. First and foremost, a fantastic professional in the way he lives his life, the way he prepares off the pitch. on the training ground. Just an extremely committed individual, and that goes through onto the pitch. He would literally rob his own granny just to win a football. So you've got that passion. He's a physically strong defender, but he's also comfortable on the ball. So again, in terms of five-a-side, being able to play out and being good with the ball in tight situations, Nathan's my man for that. So he makes it in as my defender, and again, great engine as well up and down the pitch. But
so you've gone proper coaching, Steve. We just all threw our best players in. You've properly thought about it. I had 5 strikers.
Two midfielders. Going to start with Massimo Luongo, who signed at Swindon from Spurs and has obviously gone on to QPR and Sheffield Wednesday. Played for Australia. Again, just a Rolls Royce of a player. Just so comfortable on the ball. Sees passes, pops up with the odd goal, and just looks so at ease on the pitch. Just to say, just glides across the pitch. So I liked Mass. And then alongside him is Nathan's brother Louis. Again, another young player come through the ranks at Swindon, and then went on to Norwich City. And again, Louis, again, fantastic engine. Like Nathan, fantastic professional. Again, the way he lives his life. Again, someone who can pop up with the odd goal, but importantly, he would probably do more of the physical work than the Mass. Would get about the pitch, would whack the tackles in, but as I say, was also good with the ball at his feet as well. So I think they sort of complement each other particularly well in that midfield. And then finally, the man up front, and there's been a few decent strikers I could have picked for this position, but I've gone with Mr. Charlie Austin out of non-league football. Again into Swindon, and then obviously he's gone on to other such clubs as Southampton's, QPR's and West Brom. Just a fantastic goal scorer, just knows where the back of the net is. Probably doesn't work as hard as he did back then in those days now. He's sort of coming towards the tail end of his career. But, you've seen that he's gone from West Brom to QPR recently, and I think he's already scored 4 goals in something like 7 games for QPR. The man just knows where the goal is. It's simple as that, and it's what you want, obviously, in any side, is a goal scorer. So I'm going to go with Charlie Austin.
Well, I do remember when Swindon had Charlie Austin and Billy Painter up front, and rather brilliantly Leeds bought Billy Painter. I'm saying no more.
They were a great partnership, to be fair, and Billy had a fantastic season. And I could understand why things were interested in him, but as a pair, it was just one of those. They just work so well as a pair, really. So
I think to be fairness, in fairness to Billy, I think if we'd have bought them as a pair, it might have been a very different story for him at Leeds, to be honest. So.
Sometimes it works like that, doesn't it? Sometimes you get a striker who will be good on their own. Sometimes you get a pair that work really well together, and they might not work well as individuals or with another one. It just sometimes they just gel so perfectly well, and Billy and Charlie did that fantastically at Swindon.
Yeah, no. Steve, I've enjoyed that immensely. I think the people watching will enjoy it as well. It's been good to get an insight from inside the game, which we don't always get, to be honest. So it's quite nice that, thank you for being so refreshingly honest. And I think people will enjoy that. I think, that's, as fans, that's what you want to hear, some of the stuff from inside. Not necessarily the controversial stuff, but just some of the stuff that goes on that we don't always hear about. And, like the COVID stuff at Exeter, some of that was brilliant. And I think it'll be, people will enjoy watching that, I think.
Well, they're either going to enjoy it, or at least it'll be a cure for insomnia for them, won't it, really? So,
one of the two. If my viewing figures fall off the side of a cliff, I'm blaming you. Steve, all the best at Tottenham, mate. I hope it works out really well for you. Just one quick question. So, as a male football fan who's always watched male football, never really got into women's football. I watched the World Cup because Scotland were there, so I did watch it. I did get quite engrossed in that.
The tournament.
Hey, steady. You be careful, because you know what's coming up in June. So I did get quite gripped with the World. I quite enjoyed the Women's World Cup because it was very honest, and I found it very. It was almost like football had gone back, and I don't mean this rudely, or they'd gone back 15 years to the football that I used to enjoy. They just got on with it. There was a foul, they got up, they got on with the game. How are you finding the difference between the men and the women's game? And I say, I appreciate it's very early days.
Yeah, I'd say it's literally my second week. In prior to coming into Spurs, I'd actually shown a bit of interest in some of the games, because there was an opportunity for myself to potentially go into another WSL club with a friend of mine who was potentially going to go in as a manager. So I started to show a bit of interest in some of the games and watch some of the games anyway. And then obviously I went into the job at Spurs, so I'd had a little bit of experience of it. And Sunday just gone was my first game, obviously, live and coaching within it, if you like. I think the first difference is the difference in power and pace and speed and everything. In the men's game, I would say it's dominated by that power, and in the women's game, it's slower. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's just, I think it's more of a technical game. So if you in the men's game, I think you get a bigger mix of styles. So you might get a Lincoln City under Dally Cowley, who were very, very direct, very, very powerful and physical, back to front very quickly. You had Forest Green when I was there, played out from the back, like in crazy styles. And then you'll get teams somewhere down the middle, like a Crew. Crew are regarded as a good footballing team. And they are to a point in that they play in the opponent's half, but I wouldn't say they play out from the back. So they're sort of somewhere in the middle. But my experience so far is that the women's game is generally more technical because there isn't the physical power there. I haven't really seen teams sort of just trying to launch it from back to front. A lot of the teams do actually try and play out from the back. So it's more of a technical, tactical game than it is, a power-based game, really. So that's one of probably the big differences I've found so far. I haven't seen too many histrionics and, diving and players, trying to get people sent off and bits and pieces like that. It seems quite a genuine, sporting game, if that makes sense. So I've certainly seen that. And I think even in my first week, one of the big things I've noticed is in training more than anything is that they're like sponges. They want to know. They want to get better. They want to develop. They want to, they'll question you as a coach. They'll challenge you as a coach. And I found, and again, this isn't being disrespectful into the men's game, but generally I was thinking back and like men's football, you turn up training and players just go out there and just sort of, say do as they're told. The coaches just sort of go through the practices and that, and they sort of get on with it. You get the odd one or two players that might ask a question or what about this, what about that? But I've found there's a bigger consensus of players in the women's game, in my experience so far, where they really want to pick your brains. They want to challenge you as a coach and, well, what about this and what about that? As I say, from a coaching point of view, it's certainly going to be a challenge for me in a positive way. But I would say those are the sort of the initial differences. Ask me this in 6 months' time, and I might have come up with some more. But those are just my initial thoughts. In the space of a couple of weeks, really.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting. I think I shall certainly be keeping an eye on the Tottenham scores now, just because I know you're involved there. So, and obviously, if they do let any in, I shall be instantly texting you and saying it's your fault, because that's how it works. That's how this thing works.
It's the goalkeeper and the goalkeeping coach's fault when you lose a game, of course.
Always. Yeah. I've got two sons, so you know how it works. That's exactly how I've had it for the last few years. Steve, it's been brilliant to catch up with you, mate. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Do appreciate it. And say best of luck at Tottenham for the rest of the season, and we shall be keeping an eye out on your progress. And for now, it's back to the show, guys, and see you next week.
So there we go, zooming in. Brilliant. Loved that chat with Steve. Very, very interesting. The COVID stuff was interesting, I thought, especially the bit about the playoff victories where, they're 20 seconds of celebrating, and then actually it's like, it's all a bit damp. And it's good to hear that the players are actually honestly admitting that they do miss the fans, because let's face it, we are what makes football. Ignore those TV companies. We are football. Anyway, next week we've got literally just been confirmed before I came on air, Andrew Nixie from the band Trauma. He is going to be on the show. He's a massive Liverpool fan, so Andrew Nixie will be on the show next week. I've got 2 or 3 other bands lined up for you as well already, so it's all good. We've got loads of Zoom in coming up. Don't forget as well, we will have the Beat the First Man FA Cup to carry on. I think that's in a couple of weeks' time, so all good. So let's tidy up the Lineal UEFA Cup. You may recall Borussia Dortmund held the trophy. Well, they've retained it twice since the last episode. They beat Arminia Bielefeld. You must remember them, because I pronounced it shit last time and probably shit again. And then also Borussia Mönchengladbach. So Saturday they defend it again. But like a bad penny, guess who's turned up to try and win this one? Bayern bloody Munich. So it took us ages to get rid of them from the Lineal European Cup. They came back for a little crack last week and got beaten, so I thought we'd seen them off again. But they're back to try and win this one now. So I think it's fair to say, from all of us, come on Dortmund, come on Haaland. This is your time to shine, my friend. So let's find out. It's on Saturday, so we'll find out who holds the Lineal UEFA Cup come Saturday night. I can hear the pitter-patter of tiny paws. Here he is back again. All right, Ted? Right, so, how old? Your name's shit. Did you like the new feature, Ted? Are you a fan of the new feature? What new feature? I was just telling you your name, Reedy, it's shit. Well, I wasn't expecting that. I'm not going to lie, Ted. I thought you liked the new feature. I thought, you were all about Deportivo moron. There's only one moron in this show, and it ain't me. Anyway, moving on. So, before we go on to how old and your guess, let's hear from the public. So, Faith from Wraith. Sorry, you're not even in the right decade, love. Sorry, you're miles out. So, Dave from his cave. Dave, I think you've got the wrong podcast, my friend. This is a football podcast, Beat the First Man. I don't know what do you think Dave from his cave's doing? I don't want to know what Dave's doing in his cave. Neither do I. Let's move on. So how old do you think he was then, Neil Aspin, when this photo was taken? How old was Neil Aspin? 42. Ted, he was playing football as a professional footballer. He is not going to be 42, is he? Okay, he looks that old. 32. Well, it's a fair guess, Ted. If you'd spun those numbers around at the time, you'd have been right, because Neil Aspin, at the time of that photo, was an incredibly young age of 23. 23, ladies and gentlemen. Neil Aspin looked the way he did. Absolute legend of a footballer, but boy did he look old. Anyway, what? Fire up, you don't know what you're doing. I'm off now. Fantastic. I don't like that. So, Guess v Knowledge. So, last week we had Guess v Knowledge. We had the Leeds v Aston Villa game where we both incorrectly predicted Leeds to win. I think I've just woken up from watching it, to be honest. It's a bit of a snore fest, which isn't like us. So, this week, Steve Hale has very kindly chosen us a game. Remember, the score at the moment is Guess 15, Knowledge 10. He's beautifully chosen us the Manchester Derby. Thanks, Steve, mate. So, on revealing this to guess, we got the, now, that's a really difficult one. Yeah, because all the others have been dead easy, haven't they? So, it's taken a while. I've literally been chasing her for this score for the last 2 days now. And so, eventually, she's come to a conclusion. And this scoreline will surprise a lot of people. If this one comes off, I quit. If this one comes off, someone else can play for me. So, she's gone for Man City 3, Man United 2. So genuinely, if that result comes off, somebody else can zoom in every week and play against Guess, because I'm out of it. I'm not playing it anymore if that comes off. So I think this is quite tough, because City, they're on some run. I mean, credit to them. Say what you like about Man City, but this run is unbelievable. To win that many games at boys football is amazing. To win it at top level football during these COVID times is just insane. So, but these runs always have a way of coming to an end in the games where you either least expect it to come to an end, or the games which are written that's when they come to an end. Cue Man United. So I'm so tempted to go for a 0-0 draw. I really was tempted. Man United just seem to have gone right into their shell, and defensively they do look like they've tightened it up. And City's defence is like a wall at the moment. They're giving nothing away. But I just think City are going to have too much. They're not going to want to stop this run against Man United. So I think they're going to be so up for this. I'm going City 2-0. I can't see any other result. I can't see Man United winning it. I really can't. Like I said, if it's 3-2, game's off. She'll be playing against someone else. You'll have to zoom in with your scoreline. I'll clip it all together, and it can be Guest v Guest, because Guest v Knowledge will be consigned to the dustbin. But let's see how it goes anyway. Guys, that is it for another week. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw and you don't already subscribe, please click the subscribe below. I'd love you to give me a thumbs up. It means nothing other than improves my ego and makes me feel better about it, and it makes me feel like it's been worthwhile doing it, if I'm being honest. Please stick your comments down below. I love interacting with you guys that are watching it. Let me know what you think about the new feature. Is it good? Is it shit? Is it great? See what I did there? But just let me know what you think. Is there worse than Deportivo Moron? I've got loads of them. I've got at least another 15 to 20 of those, trust me. And some are better than Deportivo Moron. I've not gone in too good early on. So that really is about it. I completely lost my train of thought then. I forgot what I was doing. You're recording a podcast, you idiot. I know I am. Anyway, so thank you so much for being on the BTFM bus once again. Ding ding. Next stop, Saturday the 13th of March, episode 30. As always, guys, stay safe and see you next week.